Good morning, everyone. I want first to thank all of you for being here today. So I need to get the clicker, probably. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So this shows that technology is complicated. Okay. So in the next few minutes, what I would like to do in this presentation is to walk you through the journey that Schneider Electric has been taking on IoT, looking at the megatrends and what is really driving this transformation of IoT, looking about what kind of specific problem we want to solve with IoT at Schneider Electric, and illustrating this with an example. I will have Johan Michalek joining me on stage from Deloitte, looking at a smart building and how we have addressed this smart building and created value for Deloitte business out of an IoT solution that we built together. Really, when you look at where all this starts, you have seen with Professor Paradiso before all the value of connectivity. I think there is a fantastic technology opportunity on connectivity. When we look at what is going to happen in the years to come, about the momentum that is associated to it, we consider that there will be, by 2025, 10 times more connected things in the world than people. So when you replay as an individual what happened to you in the last 10 years and how being connected to the internet as an individual, the advent of tablets, smartphone, everything, what it really means to you and how it has changed your life. So you can imagine that the scale of the transformation that we have, that is happening right now on things, because that's the Internet of Things, is tremendous. And that's really a tremendous dynamic because if you just project this in the years to come, that's extrapolating to 75 billion connected things by 2025. So why is it important and why does it matter? We can speak forever about connectivity, we can speak forever about the technology driving this, but it matters because it is fundamentally a profound business transformation. So technology is important in this, but what does it mean on a competitive point of view? What does it mean for your business? Whether you are a supplier, a consumer of technology, whoever you are in the ecosystem, what does it really mean for you? And when we look at some data points and some studies that are available on IoT, Gartner is considering that in this year, 2017, the value associated to IoT solution is close to $1 trillion billion. And what is interesting when you look at this value is that it's value that is created. So it's not value that is taken away from somebody. It's not just a movement of market share. It's untapping different opportunities. Efficiency, for example, is one of them that we are very interested on to focus at Schneider Electric. But it's value that is created. So it's a gigantic profit pool that is created out of the information that are available through IoT. We consider that companies addressing IoT in the right way, and that's another study, have a potential of upside of their profits by 25%. Because if you are able to support your customer to extract more value out of their process, facilities, operation, whatever, then, of course, you can trade part of this value, part of the right business model. So it's fundamental for me and important to understand that the potential of IoT lies in the value creation, and we create a lot of value. But of course, because we create a lot of value, then the competition is going to be displaced. Look about what happened with the Internet of People, how industries like mobility, hospitality, and others have been completely reshaped and displaced. So it's not just about value that is created, it's also because some companies are capturing in a better way this value, and some others are less good at capturing this value. So there is a fundamental thinking to have about business models so that you can understand how you capture this additional value associated to IoT. So we at Schneider Electric are a quite simple company. When I look at all those different megatrends and what is really influencing the world and what is really changing in the world, we are really looking at three fundamental megatrends, and that's the way we want to, that's the values we want to drive in order to create value with IoT. We look at a world that needs to be more energized. The digital economy needs power. The development of cities because of urbanization needs power. there is a very large number, 2.3 billion people, that today do not have access to electricity. No access to electricity means no access to information, no access to the internet, no access to healthcare, no access to education. So this fundamental first pillar is about energy. How do we enable the supply of energy in new forms to a vast number of people? Efficiency. We all face the challenge of a growing world, of sustainability, of the need of energy that is associated. It's not just about supplying more energy, it's consuming less of it. So we consider that if we want to address the climate change challenge and reduce emissions, we need to be 3 times more efficient than what we are today. So we need to provide energy, but at the same time, per unit of element produced, per car that is manufactured, or per square meter of building operated, we need to be 3 times more efficient. And then we need to be connected. That's the third value that we are looking at. We see a world that is more and more connected, but connectivity needs to have the right level of pervasiveness, reliability, so that people can rely on connectivity for their operation, for their daily life, for emergency, for many different contexts. So what we are focused on at Schneider Electric is what we call life is on, and life is on when life is energized, efficient, and connected. That's what we do at Schneider Electric, and that's really our core focus. So if we put that in the context of IoT, what we have been developing in the past 10 years, that started as something that was very focused on systems and evolved as really a full stack end-to-end for IoT solution, we have developed EcoStruxure. We have developed EcoStruxure as an architecture and platform that combine together a portfolio of connected products that we have in many different industries, whatever it is, electrical distribution, automation, control, and different applications. And that's the first layer of EcoStruxure, complemented by control at the edge. So all of the industry is speaking about the edge. You have all heard about the edge. So the edge is important, but not just as a gateway, not just as a way to transfer information from on-premise, the facilities, the machine, to the cloud. The edge is important because a lot of the applications that we address in the industrial space are mission critical. They need a certain response time. They cannot afford a too big latency. So we added control to the edge. So control is where we come from. The edge is more an IT concept. So blending really IT and OT conversions at the edge and providing control at the edge allows to have the right information that goes to the cloud to be processed with all the advantage of the cloud, and at the same time to have the right level of mission critical control at the edge to drive the application. And then on top of this, third layer of what we do at Schneider Electric is a set of apps, analytics, and services. And I'm going to come back on this, because this is really where you transform the data available through connectivity into information and ultimately onto business insight. And I'm going to come back on that specific access, because it's not about overwhelming people with additional data points. It's not just about beautiful graphics, millions of pop-ups on your smartphone. I've seen that all of you are probably like me, overwhelmed by the number of notifications you have on your smartphone. So if every application that you consume in your work adds additional pop-up on your phone or on your computer or on whatever, what is the most relevant information? Which information is mission critical for you? Which information relates to an emergency versus the flow of information that are just spamming you? So it's really about how do we transform data onto information, and how do we transform information into meaningful, usable business insights. So that's the purpose of this third layer. And another dimension that is important in what we do with EcoStruxure is that we are not trying to solve every problem of the world. We are not trying to build a generic solution that is a kind of gigantic Swiss knife of IoT. We have some specific domains of expertise at Schneider Electric, and we are focused on those domains of expertise that address 4 specific end markets. We are looking at the building end market, we are looking at the IT end market, data center space, at the industry end market, and at the infrastructure end market. And in the context of the strategy of Schneider Electric, this represents 70% of the world energy consumption. So addressing those 4 markets is not 100%. There are other verticals like transportations that we are not in, but we are really looking at a slice of the business and the environment that is consuming 70% of the energy in the world. And the way we have structured this overall this is to assemble the 6 very critical domain of expertise of Schneider Electric in buildings, building management, all the space of building management, and you are going to see with Johan an application in buildings, but associating this with power management, with IT management, with machine management, how a connected machine is operated, improved, made more reliable, a plant, a process, whatever it is, manufacturing, robotized plant, up to a refinery as a more gigantic process, and the grid space that is fundamentally transformed by the advent of distributed storage, distributed power generation, the fact that every single building in the world, or even your home, can become a way to produce energy. So the grid is completely reinvented by IoT and by connectivity, so we are also part of that. So when we drive those different IoT solutions, we are really combining all together the 6 specific domains of expertise. Because if I step back a little bit, really, IoT is so big, and there are so many opportunities, we need to be sure about what kind of specific problem do we want to solve. And we have organized and we have defined EcoStructure so that we can create the foundation to address IoT solutions and enable our customers and partners to build IoT solutions in those 6 specific domains of expertise, addressing the 4 end markets that I have described before that represent 70% of the world's energy consumption. So stepping back again a little bit, and I mentioned data. So we look at those 4 end markets, we look at those 6 domains of expertise. That's trillions of data points that could be combined together. And how do you make sense out of this? And fundamentally, what we believe is that context is what really drives the business value. We need to look at IoT, and we need to look at those sensor data and understand how we can generate business insights and in which way this information is going to be ultimately consumed by the users of the systems. What information do they need? In which context? Is it actionable? So the way we have organized all EcoStructure is really around a very important concept of closing the loop. And when I say closing the loop, it's really going from connectivity to actionable insight and back. Because I have more information, I can act on my process, I can make more decisions, and then I can define what additional data point I need to add to my process. It's not about just dropping millions of sensors in a facility or dropping millions of sensors in a building. It's really understanding what data are relevant to solve a specific customer problem. So when I say closing the loop, it's really combining, it's not just stopping at connecting and collecting information. I have seen many customers that were stuck in the limbo of proof of concept, making a lot of things connected, storing all those different data in a data lake, and then so what? Maybe making this a little bit better by adding visualization to this. The key point is analyze those data, adding context, and adding information that come from the process itself, but that could come from the environment. If you look at a building, you are interested by the data from inside the building, but one of the very critical externality is weather. So actual weather, humidity, sun exposure, any parameters that you do not control, but that affect the overall efficiency of your system. So if you combine actual data from the context that you are describing with what is outside as an externality, then you can really convert data into meaningful insight. And that's why I really believe that the advent of analytics and today AI is going to profoundly transform IoT, because it's really what we need to leverage in order to transform data into meaningful insight. And then taking action. Depending on the business application, depending on the context, taking actions means different things. Taking actions might be providing a red alert to a maintenance engineer so that he knows he has to act immediately, or could be triggering a service contract with a partner, or it could be shutting down an equipment, or it could be understanding a business opportunity and then pushing a lead generation, a lead to your CRM system. So all of this is action. So depending on the problem that you want to solve, you need to understand what action means. And showing a data point on a curve or on a graph is not an action. It's just informing people. And that's overwhelming. So we put really at the core of EcoStructure this idea of taking action, closing the loop, going from collecting information, transforming information into meaningful insight, and then ultimately understanding what action means in a specific customer context. So if we go through different applications to illustrate business value and the fact that business value means different things depending on different applications. In the building space, I mentioned those different verticals we are in. In the building space, we work with a Shedd Aquarium in Chicago, and they are looking at saving 50% of the energy they consume in order to operate the aquarium. So imagine an aquarium, it's a lot of pumping, heating, cooling. It consumes a lot of energy. You don't want to have an aquarium showing the beauty of nature and not being sustainable. So we have helped them design a system, really a backbone for their entire operations that allows them to save 50% of their energy. And we are really on the trend to achieve that goal. And you can see on this page other examples. If I take another context, data centers, so there is a fantastic development of data centers because of IoT, because of data, because of all this. But the problem of data centers is that they are very energy consuming because you have a lot of course, IT stuff, but you have a lot of cooling because of all the heat generated by the IT stuff. So all data center customers, they all want to be sustainable. They want to combine different things. They want to reduce the amount of energy that they consume, and they also want to be able to combine data center operations with energy production. So using the roof of the data center with solar to power the energy, or leveraging storage, so the storage of energy that they use for data center backup, leveraging this in a demand response type of relationship with utilities. So there are many different kinds of use cases, but they all want to be sustainable. In the case of the Green Mountain data center in Norway, we help that customer reduce his energy consumption tremendously by 30%. And 30%, it's both a sustainable goal, but it's also a very important operational goal because 30% of energy in the P&L of a data center, it has a big economical impact because energy is the number one cost item, cost bucket onto a data center. And if we look at the last one, in an industrial application, if I look at Xelerex in the US, we have a customer that here wanted to increase production of a facility, and instead of adding more machines and more equipment, we look at the data of the process, we look at the actual operation, and work through an IoT solution to help the customer improve the yield of its process so that he could save 60% of capital investment to grow the production. So the extension of the facility was costing 60% less of capital than what it would have cost if they had designed it exactly in the same way that they designed the first part. So that's also a very important aspect of what we do with our customers. And last example on the grid, I want to pick the example of Stedin in the Netherlands. So the grid is something that is very complex, very volatile, especially now that you have a lot of different potential events. Weather could be one of them that disrupts the grid. You could have a big variation of loads across the grid. But really what is important here is that through the grid management solution, so fully connected and for part of the solution cloud-enabled, the customers has been able to reduce the time to restore the grid in case of an outage to 30 seconds. So 30 seconds for a grid operator, it has a tremendous business impact because it has a cost impact and it has a customer satisfaction impact. So that's another very important tangible value of what we are looking at doing. So all those different solutions, if we look at them, they have all in common that none of those solutions, we have built them alone. All those solutions are really something that we do with a dynamic ecosystem. And I really think that in the context of IoT, because of the different information and context that you have to combine together, it needs an ecosystem to be able to drive this together. And this will be again illustrated in the case of Deloitte. It needs an ecosystem because you need to combine different heterogeneous systems together into a unique solution, and you need to bring together different expertise. There are some specific area of a process or specific area of a building that one company will not address, but by combining forces all together, then you can have an integrated solution that actually solves the customer problem. But if you want to enable, activate an ecosystem, you need a foundation, you need an architecture that has been designed to have the right level of openness, to have the right level of capabilities to enable that ecosystem. So that's also what we have done with EcoStruxure. We have built it in a way so that it enables an ecosystem. And a very important aspect is that by working collectively with other companies, we can reduce time to market, and this is the experience we have on projects, by 80%. And why is this so important? It's important because all of this is about learning. All of this context of IoT digital solution is about making it work, trying, improving, and doing it again. So if we are able for each of the single solution to reduce the time to market, then we learn faster, and the next solution is better than the previous one, and we can improve. So this option of encapsulating speed, not spending a tremendous amount of time to build the plumbing of the solution, but spend more time on the application itself with the different partners, it's also another very important attribute for us. So if I sum up what we look at doing with EcoStruxure, really the sweet spot and where we want to focus on, because again, as I said before, IoT is really wide, is this very interesting combination of efficiency and sustainability. Our customers in those different verticals, they have the strong business needs to be efficient, and they also have very important ambitions in terms of sustainability. This could appear sometimes as being contradicting. I want to produce more, so I'm going to consume more energy. But we have proven through those different solutions that we can bring to our customers this combination of efficiency and sustainability together, and that's really the core of what we do at Schneider Electric. So I'm going to hand it over to Johan Michalak from Deloitte, who has a very interesting example of a building, so a solution that we have developed together that illustrates perfectly what we do with EcoStruxure and what this combination of efficiency and sustainability combined together means.
Thank you, Cyril.
Thank you, Johan.
Good morning, all. What I'd like to do is introduce Deloitte's building in Amsterdam. It is an office building that some people call a computer with a roof. It has 26,000 sensors in this building. It opened about 2.5 years ago. And in that process of developing that building, we were able to implement 20 new innovations to the world. You can see that building. It's a perfect application of what's happening in smart buildings and what happened 2.5 years ago. It's still the leading example in the world of both sustainability and office environment. What I'm going to talk about today is really about changing suppliers into partners, because really bringing that partnership and that ecosystem together is what made that building unique. Most people who own environments of multiple portfolio of buildings have the same requirements that Deloitte had. What we wanted to do is reduce our operating costs, reduce our portfolio, and at the same time provide an environment that people wanted to come work in. So when we started on the journey in Amsterdam and in the broader Netherlands, we had over 15 facilities. We looked to consolidate those facilities. We also looked to compete for talent. So in doing that, we had the goal of how can we increase our brand, how can we make the work environment desirable, and we knew that sustainability and efficiency were important to our staff. So we established those goals. We established what we called a vision of reducing the overall cost of the building. Right now, I'm happy to report that building is the lowest to operate in all the Deloitte buildings throughout the world. That building also had the opportunity of demonstrating what Deloitte's about. By that I mean we have future of work capabilities, we have smart building capabilities, we have IoT capabilities, and we wanted to make sure that that was embedded in the building. So in working through that, what we did with Schneider was a very interesting thing. Everyone, and Cyril explained it quite well, everyone understands that Schneider is excellent at providing a backbone for energy infrastructure, for connecting the renewable energy components, for IT infrastructure. But what we had to do in that building was go a step further. We had to create a sense of personalization for our workers. So first thing Schneider did was actually put together a lab and prototype the solution, because the solution was pretty complex. Then what we said is, oh, let's sit down with the lighting supplier and say, wait a minute, what I want to be able to do is I want to sit in a room and I actually want to change the heat. I want to change the lighting. I want to be able to personalize it to my needs. I'm not sure we were doing the smart glasses thing that was shown in the previous speaker, but we did want to make that available to our office workers. So what Schneider did is sat with the lighting supplier. They determined that the environment would be handled by Schneider, but the actual occupancy by the lighting supplier. They put the solution together, and Deloitte said, wait a minute, I'm not too happy with this interface. I'm not too happy with this app. We brought in another partner. They developed the app. Now Schneider's actually incorporated some of that into the ecosystem solution. So we've all learned through the experience. We've also seen that different things were developed that came together, like cafe, like automated parking, like how to do a gym and keeping track of how you're doing in the gym. All the different aspects of user experience now were part of this overall outcome. So did we achieve our results? You bet we did. That building to this day still has the highest BREEAM rating in the world. It's the most connected building in the world. We are a net zero energy building. And I'm happy to report that our employees are excited about working in this space. We've actually almost doubled the density of that building, 84%. But when you include all the guests and visitors that come, we have twice as many people per square footage or square meter as we do in any other space prior to that setup of the edge. But even more importantly, 4 times the number of applicants than we had previously want to come to work in that building. And we've actually, in another smart building in our system, have monitored the number of acceptances. We're seeing 98% acceptances on offers as a result of people wanting to come to work in these type of buildings. So we're seeing the business case come together immensely. I think turning suppliers into partners, sharing the solution, and driving it together is one of the things that I'd like to highlight that we were able to accomplish in that building. And I don't think we'd be talking about 20 new-to-the-world innovations if Schneider and others hadn't come to the table in a way that we could actually do that. So with that, I'd like to turn it back to Cyril to talk about some of the ways that we co-created.
Thank you, Joanne. So I think that's really a great illustration of this notion of co-innovation that I was explaining before. In the context of that specific building, we really combined together building management, power management, and IT management, and associated this with many other companies and startups. You mentioned lighting, you mentioned the startup we work with on the app itself, and really using and leveraging EcoStruxure as a co-innovation platform that allows in those verticals that I have mentioned to build innovative solutions. So I want to end this presentation as a closing with 2 bold ideas. I want really to share with you that EcoStruxure is really about that. It's about enabling an ecosystem, whether you are a customer or a partner, to innovate on IoT solutions, but not just innovate on IoT solutions. Innovate on IoT solutions that have business impact and business value. Because it's good to do technology, but it's even better when it is a sustainable business impact for your operations. And I also want to invite you to join the EcoStruxure community and co-create together with you the future of the IoT world. I wish you a great show and hope to see you around the different booths and places. Thank you very much.
Thank you.